Hello and welcome to this episode of Connected. Today we're going to take a look at financial planning in a digital world and how technology, trust and advice can be brought together. With me to discuss this today is Product Director Rowan Whittington. So welcome, Rowan.
Hi, Terry. Thanks for having me.
So let's start by taking a look at how technology is shaping the way consumers access and engage with financial planning.
So a really hot topic at the moment, especially in the kind of climate of change and digital around the world. Consumers, customers the world over, we are used to seeing things quickly, on demand, 24 hours. We know that we can do things on our phones. Almost everybody's got a smartphone. 75% plus of older people have smartphones. So we're in a world where people want to be able to do things fast and they want to be able to do things quickly. So for financial advice, that's no different. Which in a very human-led and human-centric industry is really difficult, because how do you keep that human connection whilst also benefiting from digital? So there's always a balance of ensuring that customers can maintain their trust in the information that they're being given, get that confidence that they get from knowing that there's a real human on the other side of the information that they receive, but also that when they're sitting watching the telly at 9 o'clock at night, they can check in on their financial plan on their phone, or they can send a quick message and know that they can have a meeting whenever they need to, or kind of move their money around as quickly or as easily as they want to. So there's a really funny paradox coming for the human-led world of financial advice. And I know that lots of financial advisors are really embracing it. We recently ran an advisor report where we spoke to more than 400 financial advisors in the UK. And what came through so strongly was that technology is the number one way that firms are going to evolve and are going to remain compliant and evolve their customer book, but also help them have more customers so that they can help more people more often, more regularly, and more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, people are increasingly getting their information from a variety of sources, like some quite reliable and some not so reliable. In that increasingly digital world, how can financial advisors kind of differentiate themselves and also kind of build and maintain consumer trust?
Oh, it's such the beauty of the world becoming more digital and becoming more online is that people can feel more connected and people can get access to information really quickly, real time. AI, they can talk to AI, they can go and check on Wikipedia, they can watch a YouTube video, they can listen to a finfluencer and get their advice. But I think that means that more than ever, it's important that financial advisors' credibility and experience is communicated effectively. And that means that actually people aren't necessarily going to be comfortable having a meeting once a year and then waiting for 12 months before they talk about their money again. They are going to be going out and Googling things and asking their mates and having a look on Instagram or kind of reading on LinkedIn, stuff that people have suggested. I've done it myself. I've read things and gone, oh, that's interesting, I'll go and Google it. But in that space, in that world of fake news, a kind of trusted badge or a trusted source of where you can get that from is even more important. And increasingly, lots of advisors are creating their own CRM. They're creating their own content system. They're having to proactively communicate with their customers on a weekly or monthly basis, especially when things are happening in the world, because we're creating this on-demand culture. And the most important thing in financial advice is increasing confidence and giving people the confidence that they know what they should be doing with their money and that their money is safe. The market's down, but don't worry, your money is in a safe space. And if advisors don't rise to that challenge and aren't kind of at the forefront of it, then I know I, like many of my peers, are quite worried about what could happen. So we're building loads of things. We're building loads of things. We're working with loads of advisors, loads of big firms, loads of smaller firms, and we're constantly talking about how we can help them get better quality information to their customers at the right time and in the right format that will work for them.
Yeah, I can imagine there's a real challenge to make sure that people are discerning about what they read and that kind of thing. So, in your experience, what are consumers, those sort of mobile first consumers, expecting from financial advice firms? And again, in your experience, are those expectations being met?
Ooh, two very different questions. So what do people want? People want something that's easy to use. They want something that's simple, that makes sense, that doesn't confuse them, that doesn't have loads of jargon, loads of language that kind of scares them or makes them feel anxious. They want it modern. They want it wherever they want it, right? They want it on their phone. They want it on their iPad. They want it on their computer. They want it in whichever channel works for them. We joke in my household that my partner's a YouTube man and I'm an Instagram woman. So both of us get our information from different places. I expect that I can choose my channel of choice. And they also expect it to be personalised. I think in my journey in financial advice, I've been a dynamic planner now for, I joined last year, and I've been secret shopping. I've been speaking to people and saying, hi, I'd like to learn more about this industry. I'm super excited about it. I'm super interested in it. And the people who've done well with me and with others, I know I'm a sample of one, but I'll use me as the sample, are the people who personalise what they say. Don't send me a generic email that sort of says, dear sir or madam, it was delightful to meet with you. And here's a very long form essay that you've signed at the bottom. I don't want that. That's not my tone of voice. That's not how I speak. That's not the engagement I had with that financial advisor. And also, don't talk to me about my drawdown retirement plans when I'm in my 30s. It's important that you have a service that meets multiple different types of customers' needs, and focusing that and building that and choosing your target markets and choosing the people that you want to work with is just as important as customers wanting to be worked with by the right person. So I guess what I would say there that a customer expects is quite high. We've got quite high expectations. We're used to everything else being easy, accessible, always on. We're used to everything else looking smooth. We all use apps. We all use websites every day. There's no excuse for things to look kind of old and tired. And are financial advisors rising to it is the second part of that question. I would say yes. I joined the company last year, and I joined from quite a digital first industry. So I used to work for confused.com. We did price comparison for the masses. So we worked with lots and lots of people. And I was very pleasantly surprised by how keen this industry is to change. I've spoken to, lots and lots of advisors over the last year, and they're just incredibly excited by the possibilities of technology, incredibly excited by both speeding up their life and also being able to help more people. And in our advisor report, we found that kind of 85% of, I think it was 80, well, I should know that stat. I think it was 85 or 86% of financial advisors expected to increase their client base. So you can't expect to increase your client base whilst you don't change anything, because you're currently at capacity. So I think advisors are on the forefront of knowing what good technology looks like. I think maybe a little bit behind, but I think that allows us as an industry the opportunity to leapfrog. We can skip some of the sticky steps, and we know what's good. We can see other industries doing it. We can see what's happening there. And there are advice firms who are building really interesting tech. And we're building really interesting tech. When I show people Tram, our mobile app, people love it. They're like, oh, it's so simple, it's so clean. How have you managed to make that so easy to digest? And that's important. Thinking about the end customer and how they're going to receive information without you there to explain it is critical. And I've been very impressed by how forward-thinking a lot of the financial advice firms that we work with have been in embracing that digital change, that digital wave.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I'm interested in the extent to which it's a problem for today versus just a thing to sort of future-proof your business for tomorrow. I mean, I imagine some advisors would say, look, my client base is quite old. they're not really embracing this technology, so I can sort of park it. But I mean, you were saying there that 75% or something or have mobile
of
phones?
Older people have smartphones. Yeah,
older people have mobile phones.
Age UK states that we cannot make the lazy assumption that older people don't like tech. We just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I wrote a piece a couple of months ago for a publication about how it's just it's an excuse to say that older people don't like it. My father-in-law, who's in his 80s, regularly uses apps on his iPad to get his news. He regularly uses WhatsApp to communicate with his son, his daughter, his family. They're listening to podcasts. They're working. We're watching YouTubes. We're watching, kind of engaging with those things. And I think in financial advice, especially, and this is not, I'm kind of not trying to over-egg this, but people who get financial advice, people who can afford financial advice, are often people with the background to have been on the forefront of computers and tech and web. My dad loved the internet. That was 30 years ago. He was one of the people who was excited by it. So of course he would now want his financial advice digitally. So to answer your question, I think right now there is a real pressing need to improve your digital estate, and that's only going to grow. The next generation, the children of your clients who inherit that wealth, the inheritance, the amount of money that's going to pass from this generation to the next in the next 15, 20 years is a huge, huge amount. And you don't want to turn around in 15 years and say to people, oh, hi, do you want to talk to me now? That's not going to fly. You've got to build loyalty early days. And actually in my previous life, that is what I did with Admiral Insurance. We built a learner driver product, not because we could sell that for lots of money, but because we knew that if the 17-year-olds used us for their learner driver, when they next got their car, they'd probably use us for their main insurance. And when they wanted a multi-cover in their 30s, they'd probably then use us for home insurance. Loyalty, brand loyalty is super powerful and has a huge return on investment. So perhaps if you're a really small firm and you're planning to retire yourself in the next 5 years, you might say, actually, I'm not that bothered by it. And that's fine. But I think, we have people using our Tram products, which I mentioned earlier. We've got people who are logging into that weekly, who are in their 80s. They're using it. They're enjoying it. They're reading the content. They're looking at their live valuations. They're seeing their risk profile. So you have to serve everybody. But by serving everybody, acknowledge that everybody might use it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's the laziness aspect. But, are there any other barriers sort of preventing firms from embracing digitisation? And are there any sort of, I mean, not quick fixes, but what are the ways to overcome that?
I mean, there's loads of barriers. The lazy point was more on as an excuse not to think, oh, all my customers are older, they won't like tech. That was my point more than anything else. But the barriers are quite high. Technology relies on a quality infrastructure, and financial advice is a very data-driven industry. But that data is very disparate. And that data lives in lots of different places. For some people, it lives in a filing cabinet. For some people, it lives in a CRM. For some people, it lives on a spreadsheet. And bringing all of that together is a mountain in itself. So if you try and digitize your processes without having really thought about where your data is coming from, where it's flowing to, who you're providing that to, who your ideal end user would be, you might make the kind of wrong decisions. So I personally think that if you already use a system, and if it's kind of 70, 80% there, or if it has a solution there that you could add to, you just need to take a stop and think, is that going to be the right next step for me? Or do I need to kind of reset and think about the whole service? You can't just sprinkle a little bit of digital on the top of everything that you've currently got. it's a fundamental shift. It's a foundational change in how you would run a business to decide to automate it and to digitize it and to put it into a system. So there's lots of barriers to it. But there are also lots of people out there like Dynamic Planner who are trying to break down those barriers and trying to smooth it and trying to improve it. And we say part of our product principles are that we want to be seamless and scalable, and that we want data to be safe with us. We want to maintain that integrity. And we also want that security. I think, again, financial information is super personal. You don't want to mess it up. You don't want to put it in the wrong place. You don't want to give it to the wrong person. You don't want to kind of disrespect that data that's being given to you by your end customer. So I think being considerate and not just jumping on the kind of next bandwagon that might come along that might help digitize is quite important. And I know that lots of firms are really thinking very hard about how they can digitize properly. And I'm quite excited to see what happens. I know we're having lots of conversations with people about their digital transformations. Not everybody works with us, and that's fine. But I think the whole industry is having a moment, and it's a very exciting time to be part of. I mean, my job is digital. I'm a product person. I work with technologists to deliver beautiful products. And it's a really interesting time to be doing it in financial advice.
Okay, let's do a bit of crystal ball gazing, I guess. Okay. Just finally, so it's 2030. What does that sort of tech-enabled future of financial advice look like for consumers, and how is it kind of working in their best interest?
Ooh, who knows what it'll look like in 3 years, let alone in 5. I think other than the points I've already made around it kind of being personalised and actually tailored to what you know about me, I'll use me as an example. I expect as a consumer that if I'm giving something, I'll receive something. So more and more our data is going to be easy to share. If I can give you lots of data, use it well, use it right, and give me something that's really useful. So I think the industry is going to have to be super hyper personalized and super automated to do so. So with the upcoming targeted support changes, with the increase in people in the UK who want advice and who will be able to access advice or guidance or some sort of support, we have to automate it. And I think the tricky thing will be maintaining the confidence, because we know that people won't act without knowing that that a human has been in the loop. I also think that the model needs to change. I think the idea that somebody needs to sit at home and think, I need some financial advice now, let me go and seek it, needs to change. I think it needs to be embedded at the point of need. So there's obviously lots of conversations around pensions and making sure that advice is given at the point of pension. But why not in lots of other places? Why not, when I'm applying for a mortgage, give me some hyper-personalised advice, suggest that I go and speak to someone over here? Why not my bank see, oh, Rowan, you've just, you've got a chunk of money that's come into your bank account. In my dreams, you've got a chunk of money that's just come into your bank account. Let us offer you some targeted support or some advice or guidance here. And that's where the smart AI, data-led, data science approach will come in. Starting to think about the principles, starting to think about the patterns that we see. So instead of one financial advisor who has for 30, 40 years knows how people work, automating that and giving that a kind of sentient brain, whether through AI or any other kind of large data application. I think that will be super interesting to see how that's done. And the flip side of that, of us asking automation and AI to do a lot more heavy lifting for us, is that I think that we will have a bit of a resurgence of regulation, data protection. I think there'll need to be a more modern view on that. And I'd expect there to be some sort of kind of ethics as a service or something new that has to come in there to just give the end customer and the end client the confidence that they know that the data that they're giving is going to be used in the right way and is going to actually help them for the right purposes. Because I think we can all imagine a future where the robots take over, and it gets quite scary, and people are just asking ChatGPT and they're just putting their money where that asks it to. That's very dangerous. So I think that we need to be at the front of that. We need to pioneer ethics and morals and the correct use of automated financial advice, which we talk about a lot. We talk about both the positives and the benefits of AI and automation, and also making sure that we maintain the credibility of the financial advice industry by ensuring that ethics is at the heart of how we apply it and how we do it.
Great. Okay, we'll wrap up there. Thanks so much, Rowan. There was some really interesting ideas in there. And thank you to everyone for joining us. Please do keep an eye out for the next episode, where we'll be exploring financial well-being, behaviour and vulnerability with Dr. Louis Williams. Until then, goodbye.